Well, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, I'm back. As last week's episode covering sours seemed to be effective enough to encourage my housemates to go out and actually buy proper good beer, I've realised two things. One, that I'm an excellent salesman, and two, that I need to keep this train rolling because I can't go back to my... But it was the cheapest beer in the bottle. I don't care. I'm not putting myself through that again. I just can't go back. So, welcome back to Styles of Beer. I'm Dak from Nola, Adelaide, and today I'm going to talk to you about lager. When zooming out on beer as a whole, there are two branches you can look at. There are ales and lagers. And the key difference there is the yeasts that you use. Ale yeasts are top fermenting, meaning they ferment at the top of the fermentation tank and they prefer slightly warmer temperatures. Pretty much everything fits into the ale category, from pale ales all the way down to stouts. And then the other exception is lager, which has its own category and uses bottom fermenting yeasts which prefer colder temperatures. But the good thing about that is they're more stable and they can be stored or lagered for longer. Okay, so the first lagers tend to pop up in the 1500s in Northern Europe, in what is now Austria and Germany. While cooler fermentation techniques had been used prior to that, they still used ale yeasts, and this was using caves and during the cooler seasons. It's thought that the strain of yeast, that is now lager yeast, was brought back to Europe by explorers that are coming back from South America in something known as the Columbian Exchange, which summed up can pretty much just be described as Europeans bringing back potatoes, vanilla, tomatoes, and taking over to South America great things such as disease, olives, slavery, and religion. The strain of yeast is then thought to have hybridized with American yeasts, and that created the lager yeast. The style started off mostly as darker beers, think things like Dunkel, but towards the 1800s they started to make a shift towards the pale lager style that we see today. These days, lager is still the most widely consumed style of beer on the planet. Although the craft beer industry has kind of had lagers sidelined for quite some time, up until the last couple of years, but it's making a massive resurgence now. I, for one, am happy to see this, at least now when somebody walks up to the bar and goes, "Oh, I don't know, mate, just give me a bloody normal beer." I have something to keep them happy, and I don't have to have Millers on tap. It's a win-win. Alright, well, I've bored you enough with a history lesson. Let's take a look at Helles lagers. The Helles, or Hells, which translates from German to mean light or bright or pale, originates from Munich. It was first brewed in the 1800s as a direct competitor to Citra Pilsner. The Germans started to feel like they were losing some of their beer brewing street cred, and so came up with the Helles. Today we are looking at the E02 Brewing Helles Lager. Let's have a taste. Start with having a bit of a smell of that one. Okay, so yeah, right away on there you get like a light floral or slightly fruity hop. It's quite subtle, and then a nice bit of breadiness as well. Okay. Ooh. That's so refreshing. So yeah, I'd say on the palate there you get quite a sweet malted backbone there, with low bitterness hops, something a bit floral, not too fruity on the palate, with a slight dry biscuit or breadiness to it as well. It's super light, super crisp and refreshing, not heavy in the mouthfeel at all. It's pretty much an ideal summer lager. Jamie, do you mind? Do you have a bottle opener on you?
Yeah. Check this out.
Thank you. Did you do that on purpose?
No.
Alright, so moving on to Pilsner. Named after its birthplace in the Czech town of Pilsen. Pilsner was developed by, and it's quite hard to pronounce, but bear with me, Městský pivovar Pilzeň. Sorry to anyone who is Czech out there and watching and laughing their ass off at me butchering their language, but that, as far as I could tell, translates to the Citizens Brewery. Better known today, though, as Pilsner Urquell. They'd started aging other styles of lager in cool caves, which improved the shelf life and clarity of those beers. But using these techniques, as well as paler malts and Pilsen's incredibly soft water, a man named Joseph Groll presented his first batch of pale lager on October 5th, 1842, which became known as Pilsner. Compared to the last beer, Pilsner tends to have a slight hoppy bitterness, but still quite mild, a full-bodied mouthfeel, and a slight touch of sweetness. And here today we have the Loberthal Beer House Citra Hopped Pilsner. Let's give it a try. Thank you, Jamie, by the way, for covering me in beer. Alright, so let's start with... So I would say that this isn't your traditional style of Pilsner, because on the nose here, it is very new world hops. Citra, funnily enough. So almost like a bitter lemon on the nose. Alright, let's give it a taste. Ooh, yeah, okay. So that's lovely. On the palate, you do still get that clean, light, crisp Pilsner flavor with those sort of pale, light malts, and that just hint of bitterness. But because this is using a New World hop, you do have quite a strong bitter grapefruit or lemon sort of hoppy flavor there. Incredibly light and crisp and refreshing though, but sort of more of a medium body compared to the last beer. This one is available on Big Easy Drinks, link in the description below. You can try it and I definitely recommend that. That is really interesting take on a Pilsner. Okay, so the next style of beer I don't actually have on hand, continuing with my amazing trend of disorganization, but just to change things up, I actually wanted to briefly touch on Dunkel. The term Dunkel means dark in German. It's a dark style lager originating in Bavaria? And was the signature style of the region, still is really. It has a distinct malty flavor with a good balance between sweet and toasted malt bitterness, as well as some chocolatey, biscuity sort of notes on the nose. Really wish I had one of them now because they are my favorite style of lager, but it is a very old style of lager. Predates all the other beers we've talked about today. Sort of one of the original lager style beers. Okay, well, I think that'll do it for me for this week. And just like last time, I'll be back this same time next week to talk to you about wheat beers, sticking with the European theme. And it also gives me the chance to keep the notion of buying bad beer out of my housemate's head. So until then, check out Jamie's video tomorrow, 7 o'clock, and he'll be talking about part 1 of 2 about Scotch. Alright, until then, bye.